Are you using LLMs and PropTech are still stuck sticking tax into a cork board? It's hard to believe we're almost through Q1 of 2026. Time to find out how AI is really working and what is still science fiction. Welcome to this week's edition of Storage Unlocked. We're proud to host the 2026 Tech Roundtable. I'm your host, Thaddeus Campbell, Director of Business Development and Strategic Branding at S3 Partners. From raw land to C of O, we can help your development dreams come alive. I'm honored today to welcome three people to the show that I consider friends, incredibly respected in our industry, brilliant young minds that are helping to disrupt, there we go, how self-storage is run. I want to welcome Maggie Bode, Head of Enterprise Sales for Unity AI, Pandl, Founder, CEO of NodaFi, and Tyler Sellars, Founder and CEO of Cactus AI. First and foremost, all of you, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join this roundtable.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Very much my pleasure, guys. I'm going to shoot off. I talked to you guys before we went, a few rapid fire questions I want to ask you guys. Looking for one-word answers. If you got to go to a full sentence, that's great. I'm going to go, I told them off camera, I flipped the coin, and we're going east to west. So Tyler Sellars is the furthest east of us. I'm going to start with Tyler and work my way around the group. One-word answers, self-storage in 2025. Tyler Sellars.
This is hard. There's potential. There's still potential.
Maggie Bode, 2025, self-storage.
Movement.
Jacob Pandl.
Connected.
Let's jump forward a little bit. Self-storage in 2030. Tyler Sellars.
Syndicated.
Maggie Bode.
Efficient.
Good word. Jacob Pandl.
2030. Robots.
Tyler Sellars. AI and real estate today.
Fast.
Maggie Bode.
Growing.
Jacob.
I'd say it's early. Still early.
Love it.
Long
Love
way
it.
to go.
We're going to reverse this a little bit. I'm going to stop putting Tyler on the spot with the first answer. We're going to go backwards for a second. Jacob Pandl, most overhyped tech buzzword right now.
Overhyped tech buzzword. Wow, that's a good question. The word of the moment. Is this still one word, or are we?
If you need a sentence to answer, that's perfectly okay.
I think vibe code is kind of a. That's a real buzzy buzzword right now.
I do wish that I went first now. That was mine.
Vibe code.
You got to explain to the layman 52-year-old what is vibe code.
Vibe coding, you pull up your favorite LLM, Claude or OpenAI, right? ChatGPT. Tell it to build something, and have it go build whatever you can dream of, right? And there's actually a ton of value and a ton of things that you can build, and I'm happy to talk about some of the stuff we've been using it for. But I think it's early on, and people are still trying to figure out exactly what that means. And I don't really like the term. I think it kind of insinuates that you just type something, it builds it all magically, and you forget about it. It works perfectly from there on out. There's a little more to it than that, but it is an incredibly kind of powerful new democratization of technology that is exciting. It's just a little overhyped.
Tyler Sellars, I'm going to ask you most underrated tech right now. It's like, I wish you asked me the other one first.
I mean, I'm in the underwriting space, so we still believe like financial analysis at scale for investment committee level. It's similar to Jacob's piece where, yes, you can try and do it through these LLM tools, but it's certainly not a viable solution as of its current stage today for being ready for investment committees or OMs, BOVs, debt memos.
Love it. We'll dig into that certainly more as we go through the roundtable with what Cactus AI is doing. Maggie, I'm going to ask you most outdated operator habit that you're seeing in self-storage that tech is going to disrupt.
Can you believe that people are still taking checks?
Love it. Love it. Quick fire questions. I'm going to ask all three of this one. Maggie, data or relationships?
Relationships.
Tyler Sellars.
Relationships.
I see all nodding your head, all in agreement. I love it. Describe the state and the speed of the amount of PropTech startups today. Maggie Bode. Couple words.
The first one is a lot. As somebody who's been in multiple industries of PropTech, multifamily, storage, manufactured housing, crowded is what it feels like. But crowded's good.
Jacob Pandl.
Yeah. I think we've talked about this a little bit, I think, before too, Thaddeus, is especially in self-storage and a lot of prop tech in general. I think um, in terms of like the innovation and development and things that like people say all the time, like, oh, like Maggie, you just said there, right? I can't believe people are still taking checks. I can't believe people are still doing this on paper. I can't believe this still lives in a SharePoint, app or a Excel spreadsheet. So there's this kind of like it's kind of a lagging industry in a lot of ways, but I think in 2025 2026, like to Maggie's point, what we're seeing is sort of this like leapfrog moment where we're going from like 2014 era kind of tech stack and maybe a period of like low innovation from a technology standpoint to here we are in 2026, and all of a sudden, all of these companies are talking about ways to introduce and actually introducing AI into operators tech stack. The industry, I think, is like very rapidly kind of going from that spreadsheet paper era to AI, whatever you want to call it, AI native, or like these like very kind of sophisticated workflows. And I think 2026, that trend is like really continuing and even picking up. And so it's an exciting time to be in the space.
It was a perfect answer to open the door to where I was going next. I appreciate that, Jake. It was always nice when my guests help me out with where I'm headed. I want to ask a little deeper question now, and I'm going to kind of give all of you a chance to chime in on this one. I'm going to start again with Tyler. Scale of 1 to 10. 1, Paleolithic era, 10, somebody who owned an Apple II computer in 1980. Where are we in storage with the adoption of PropTech, AI, whatever you want to call it, whatever different, some of you get different avenue you might be using?
Yeah, I think on the C-level suite, it's relatively high. One of the reasons I believe for that is just it's so easy to access and try certain things of your own, like an LLM or something that's about $20 a month. On the actual work and when it really matters and your job kind of depends on it or your livelihood really depends on it, we're still at I'd say 3 or 4.
Maggie, I'm going to ask you to expand on that if you have something to add or anything you'd like to chime in on that question.
Yeah, I think Tyler is spot on. I find though that we're in this place of like people really want to use it, but how do we figure out how to use it effectively? I think that's where we are. I think the desire is there. To put a number on that scale, I don't know what that is, but you talk about like a C-suite level. Every C-suite is really interested in using it, but they're like, how do we use it? And how do we make it work for our particular operation? So I think where we're going, which I'm really excited about, is, people in real estate are learning, how do we make this effective? How do we make this work for what we need it to do?
Jacob Pandl, I'm going to let you wrap this one up. Anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think Tyler and Maggie are both kind of spot on that. I think like it sort of follows like to Tyler's point, the ease of access and implementation. So some of those like on the ground nitty gritty workflow details are really difficult to apply technology to. They take change management for one. You have to train people from using the paper processes and things that they've been used to for years and years and years, and then introduce that new technology. You're dealing with like a lot of times, especially in real estate, right? Like the physical world, right? It's kind of easy to sit behind a computer and apply a new thing, integration, whatever thing into your tech stack and whatever, spin it up quickly. But when you're talking about the real physical world, you have to map out the business processes as they relate to the facility. Maybe there's assets involved and different all sorts of things that can go wrong when people in the real world are introduced. So it's just much harder to adopt at that level versus like ingesting some data maybe at the C-suite level and throwing it into ChatGPT.
I'm going to go to my next question. Maggie, I'm going to start this one with you. Where are you seeing operators actually using tech most effectively?
I think it's interesting. Every operator is so different, right? What is your priority and what is the piece of your business that you value the most? And obviously your bottom line is that. I think where we're getting to, and this definitely applies to what we do at Unity, is how can we make our teams more efficient? And that could be a lot of different things. How are we making our teams, you asked what's more important. tech relationships. How are we making the relationship stronger with the tenant and the on-site team, or the tenant and the call center, by implementing technology that helps support that? So, how do you, in Jacob's product, how do we make things more efficient on site for people that are on the ground? I think it varies. And I think it just matters about, the most important thing is, where do you see an opportunity in your operations? And, because there are a lot of operators that I'm sure we've all talked to that our product does not speak to them maybe yet, because they're thinking about another piece of the business. So I think it varies greatly.
Jacob, you're talking to operators all the time with what NodaFi does, your property technology that you're implementing in various facilities around the country. What are you seeing that operators are getting right?
Sure. I think in terms of technology, you're saying, or
And 100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Poorly worded question on my part. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of things operators are getting right, generally. In terms of technology, well, I think some of the interesting things, like at least recently, that I've seen people doing, I see a lot of just broadly a lot of experimentation, which I think is really, really valuable with some of these new technologies. Like, I'm seeing people, I talked about how vibe coding is overhyped, but at the same time, I think like the democratization of access to like these technologies is super powerful. We're doing a ton of stuff internally, experimenting with those tools and talking with operators. I was talking with somebody who built their own sort of AI call analysis for their call center, where they're recording their calls, they pipe it through, I think, Airtable. They run it through an LLM, and they're not technical per se, like in the classical sense. But they built this whole pipeline where that's coaching their call center reps using something they built out of the box. So I think, and that's one example. I think generally folks in self-storage are obviously very entrepreneurial and innovative, and they're getting their hands on some of these tools and experimenting like that. So I think it's exciting and cool to see. We're having these conversations with our own with prospects and customers that they're innovating in very interesting ways right now.
Tyler Sellars, wrap this one up with you. You literally have talked to multiples of hundreds of operators in the self-storage space, something I continue to be blown away with, the number of connections you've made in the short time Cactus AI has been operating. What are you seeing that people are getting right in the tech space? That is the fireworks in Valencia. We were talking about this off camera. Perfectly on cue as we go to Tyler. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we have some fireworks going off. So I think what they're getting right is experimenting, trying. I think that they're quite curious. What is quite obvious within the commercial real estate space in particular is that it's non-technical people that are heavily relationship-based individuals or come from an analysis background tend to be the runners of these companies, and that's for a good thing. That's a good profile to have. However, those aren't the same types of profiles that allow for us to be able to typically build useful tech or tech that's like fully thought through on the whole analysis of the company. And so when you're talking to C-level, they kind of have like a very generalist ability to understand everything that's going on within the company. And typically you'll have tech companies offer a point solution for something in particular within that business. But I tend to see, these LLMs kind of offering this generalist perspective that allows for them to gain access to certain things and get started in their journey of implementing new tech, where it typically was companies like my own or Jacob's or Maggie's that were kind of offering these tech solutions. So one thing that I'm loving that's happening within the industry is the feedback's a lot better now. The feedback that we tend to receive from customers and sales relationships is a lot more pointed because they've tried it already with LLMs, and now they're saying, okay, look, we've spent $50,000, $150,000 trying to do something like this. It's just still not working, and we're kind of frustrated at a point that we've spent so much money. Is there another solution out there that's kind of figured it out? And that's where I'm starting to see some of my sales calls go. Fortunately for us, unfortunately for some operators, but also, look, I'd much rather them spend the $150,000 figuring out exactly what they're looking for. That 150 to some groups is very little. And for you to be able to learn exactly what you're looking for $150,000, that's a salary of one analyst that maybe did work for you, but never really provided to you the vision of what is the next step for your firm.
I still pinch myself when we start talking about these numbers in the space that we're in, right? Like where multiples of millions of dollars is a normal conversation. Lucky to be involved in these types. Jacob, I'm going to give you a chance to lead off after we take a quick break. I got a question for you, but before we do that, I want to give a second to give my sponsors, PB Brown General Contracting, a quick word. Stores Unlocked is brought to you by PB Brown. Over $1 billion in ground-up construction delivered from single-story to Manhattan high-rise, institutional grade, engineered for performance, and designed to stand out. Great storage catches the consumer's eye, drives traffic, and helps lease-up happen faster. From Manhattan to Miami, California to Hawaii, PB Brown is the GC to trust for your multi-million-dollar storage development. Jacob Pandl, promise you're going to get a chance to lead off. You guys at NodaFi are really helping operators seamlessly integrate work that needs to be done on site with their vendor groups. Talk to me a little bit about how this technology and any technology for really, ultimately, owners are not going to adopt technology that doesn't help their bottom line, that doesn't help NOI. So how are you guys at NodaFi helping either A, drive more revenue, or B, lower expenses to help increase NOI?
Yep. So there's a few different things that we look at, right? I mentioned earlier, we were talking about how it's difficult to introduce and build technology kind of at the ground level for some of these quite complex workflows. I think folks who are new to storage or maybe just like somewhat aware of it kind of look at the storage industry and they're like, oh, that's a simple operation, right? People storing stuff in a box and and then they put it in, they give people money and then they take it out, right? Like very common to think that way. But then you obviously, we all know, and probably everybody listening to this knows the nuance and complexity of running both the back of the house and then, like the day-to-day operations on the ground. We NodaFi, we kind of fit in on that facility operations piece. So looking at everything that goes into keeping your store, clean, well maintained, units getting swapped out, and allowing you to turn them over for new tenants. And again, like what we were talking about earlier, we found a lot of folks are still using spreadsheets, printing off paper walkthroughs, analyzing, really important capital expenditure decisions like, hey, should I replace this boiler or this HVAC or this gate, or ship it off to a vendor to repair it for the 10th time? All that right now, in a lot of ways, is being tracked by paper or sophisticated spreadsheets. So we kind of centralize all of that facility operation information, from everything from like, what is my store manager doing today on their site walk, to like preventative maintenance and compliance plans to make sure, hey, that backflow inspection or that fire extinguisher inspection that's supposed to happen once a year, and if we don't do it, we could get shut down, right, for a day. Making sure all those kind of little nitty gritty details happen, and then at the kind of executive level, giving really clear information to VP of operations or COO that the things that I expect are for us to follow our brand standards, that I expect that to be happening on the property every day. Like, those are actually happening, and I can drill into an individual property, individual store manager or district manager, and have completely validated evidence that that is happening on site. So that's essentially what we do. We've been introducing, on the topic of AI, functionality where you can kind of chat with NodaFi and it spits you back out a report on what's going on at your properties. So sort of like a ChatGPT type layer for providing that information. But ultimately, we're just trying to help operators more efficiently kind of run their facility operations there.
How is that helping them increase revenue or decrease expenses specifically?
Sure. So on the increased revenue side, some of the things we look at, so we integrate with all the property management systems. One of the things that, one of the things that we found is sometimes there's a lot of cases of like high demand unit types that are offline for maintenance reasons, for example. So you might have, I don't know, say you have 1% of your units on unrentable, and a portion of those are due to service, maintenance, cleaning, whatever. Across your whole portfolio, if there's specific unit types, like maybe a 20 by 40, whatever it is that you have very few of, and for some reason it's sitting unrentable for 100 days and it's the only one there, that can just easily get missed. So we surface that, give you kind of a record of what's going on with that, with pictures and things, and help you coordinate with a vendor if needed to kind of get that unit back online. So that's kind of like, one specific example of where driving revenue. I'd argue that cleaner, nicer, better looking facilities tend to lead to higher reviews, tend to lead to, more revenue as well. So we've helped.
I want to know real quick. I don't mean to interject, but you dropped the 20 by 40 unit. Did you see Noah Starr's post earlier today about how well larger units are doing versus smaller units in the industry? It was very well timed for you to drop a 800 square foot unit. As a thing. It was, anyway, I shout out to Noah. Noah was invited to be part of this Tech Roundtable. He is happily on paternity leave right now, taking care of his baby daughter, Charlotte. So shout out to Track IQ and Noah Starr. Your point, very well taken, right? If you can help get a higher revenue producing unit back online quicker, that generates more revenue for the facility. Maggie, I'm going to jump to you real quick. I want to talk a little bit about what Unity AI is doing. And all of you in a certain way are helping to replace work that human beings are doing. I guess for whatever reason with Unity AI and kind of a virtual sales agent, maybe tweaks me a little bit more as a 52-year-old about kind of replacing a person actually doing the work. Not that the workflow technology and what Tyler's doing with underwriting isn't really doing the same thing. Talk to me about where an owner is going to benefit from bringing in a virtual sales agent.
Yeah. And it's a great point. I think a lot of people, we still all kind of live in that fear, like, are we going to all be replaced by robots? And that's not the point. I think, it's a really easy kind of first reaction to think like, well, am I going to wipe out my call center? No, because we all know, and any person listening to this knows that you probably have a handful of people in your call center that you're like, I can't live without them. They are the ones that are always selling units. They're getting that insurance. They're making sure that they are upselling, they're doing the right thing, and they're also being good to the customer. So what Unity does basically is allows those stars to be more efficient. Unity, we have agents that are fully, really customizable through the workflows, from collections to sales to service, everything in between, inbound, outbound, in 4 different channels. So text, email, chat, and voice. We feel, voice is really the place where I think a lot of operators are looking to right now. But Unity answers the questions like, what are the hours of the facility? What is my balance? What is my gate code? All of those things that your like star performers in your call center don't need to be answering. They need to be talking to the people that maybe missed rent last month and have some, special situation that they need to talk to you about. And that's why, storage is a people business. So absolutely hear you. I think the layer of Unity on top of an operation is just to enhance it, not to replace it. 2
things. I was still a young kid when the Terminator came out. So that like fear that was induced in me as a child about AI and where it's going, it's definitely deep. I'm also old enough to remember calling virtually any business and getting a live person answering the phone. And then having to live through that era of like waiting. I call my daughter's high school when I need something for her, and I got to wait till they say number 5 before I can click to get the office, right?
Yeah.
Are we coming to this place where I no longer have to, wait to click number 5 to get to the place that I need to be?
You do not. So the agents are prompted. So we take all of this information that allows your agent, and you can name it. It's very customized. The agent answers the phone, whatever their name is. We have a lot of people that love the name Maya. That seems to be like a very resonant name with operators, but they answer the phone and they ask you some discovery questions, right? Just like any call center would. If it's like, you don't even need to press 1 for sales or press 2 for service. The agent asks, are you a current customer? Or are you a new customer? Are you looking, to rent? Or are you looking to, a variety of other things? So no, you don't have to wait. And that's the greatest part is, we call places and we're on the phone for 20 minutes. Like you call your cell company and you're on for 20 minutes and you just say, I'm not going to worry about it. Don't just take all my money. I'm off. It allows operators to get to the people that are going to rent much more quickly, because we all know that if you lose that one person, if you do not get back to them instantly, they're going on to the next one.
Safe to say that you're structuring this then to kind of guide those people that are real buyers of a unit to those sales agents in a call center who are actually really effective at closing units.
Yeah. And service too, right? If you're like, something's wrong, I need to know my balance, I'm in a hurry, it's higher customer service, right? You're getting to them instantly. So it's all around. We just want tenants to be happy.
I'm all for anything that allows me not to have to listen to a recorded voice ever again. So I
Or
love that.
the background music, right? I'm good.
That's great. Love it. Tyler Sellars, I want to talk a little bit about Cactus AI and what you're doing. And one of the things I'm always fascinated, I count myself very lucky. I spoke to you very early on in your iteration of Cactus and what it was going to be. And you're an operator, right? You own self-storage, you operate self-storage, you got into building Cactus AI out of your own. You talked about that earlier with operators going out and doing things. And one of the reasons you love that so much is because when they know what they need, it's a much easier sell to help them with it when they don't. And that's why you started Cactus, right? But Cactus today is not what Cactus maybe you envisioned it to be in 2024 when you first got started. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are doing and how you see it really helping operators, investors in the space.
Yeah, we're an underwriting automation tool. It's not so much, we say automation, but there's still that necessary human in the loop component that's ingrained within commercial real estate and has to be. So we're not replacing the underwriters or the analysts, but rather allowing for those senior analysts or the C-level to be able to get that same output, but within a fraction of the time. We created this whole ideology of a back of the napkin because it was so lengthy to do a full underwriting. So we started cutting corners to be able to create KPIs that kind of told a story that we believed was certainly true. What we're coming to realize now with AI is that we can get a full underwriting in that same period of time that it took for us to get a 1% rule in multifamily or a certain per square foot purchase price on a self-storage development deal, for example. So what we're typically seeing now within our space is access to data. So these tools like Tract IQ or Radius Plus or StoreTrack to then be merged into your Excel. So typically you have your two screens as an analyst, you have your Excel on one, and then you have the access to data on the other. The issue runs into building those pro formas accurately based on that historical data of your existing portfolio, and then also running it off of market. And then comes into the portfolio management perspective of being able to say, okay, we promised something to investors on our pro forma, but then in reality on the operations, we didn't hit that same NOI, or we're not going to be able to pay out the same disbursements that we promised in year 3 than what they were expecting. So there's 3 core components to Cactus. There's access to data, there's the financial analysis, and then there's the looping in your own model so that you can still use your own IP, or you can then use the Cactus models that we have available to our users that allows for them to maybe upgrade from where they were before and just work faster. But again, we're not a simple tool that you just drag and drop in documents and it goes directly to your Excel. We can do that. Certainly, there's quite a few of our users that simply just use that functionality because they have a bullpen of analysts that they still want to do a lot of their underwriting components for within Excel. But really where we tend to see a ton of success within our existing customer base in the sales side is more on this full suite of your IP within your firm, all that knowledge, then driving into creating pro formas, financial statements, and then also being able to loop that back into the next deal that you're looking to underwrite. So we tend to work with very ambitious groups, those who are looking to grow quite significantly or have access to capital that need to start pushing that out with confidence and sourcing.
How critical is that today? One of the big issues, S3 partners are developers, right? We're owners, reps, and ground up developers is our lifeblood. But it's no secret that over the last, really going back to 2017, there's been some significant supply issues coming into self-storage as far as new ground up developments that are happening. How critical is it going to be going forward to have this technology helping to make better decisions about where we go and build new facilities?
Yeah, I think there's one part of just being able to understand, new supply coming into market. That's always interesting. It's kind of the same ideology of supply per capita, right? So we always use the supply per capita in underwriting to decide whether or not this market's going to work. But it's not just this like golden ticket or golden star that tells us whether or not this is the right opportunity. There's some submarkets that this high supply per capita are still hugely opportunistic. And so you need a weighted average across a ton of market data to then be able to decide what your decision is. And that's really where Cactus kind of thrives, is that ability for you to not just have this pointed solution that says, hey, supply per capita KPI is too high, meanwhile, so therefore this is not a market that we're going to go after. And that's typically how self-storage underwriting or site selection was typically decided on. Yep. It's wrong. It's just wrong. And so one of the things that AI is incredibly good at, of course, is once you have that structured data, to be able to analyze that is quite interesting, but it's much more impactful once you have that structured data to then be able to do a simulation, essentially, of a particular market. AI is terrible at that. That's really where I think the next evolution of AI or technology within our space will become quite impactful on the finance side as well as the operations side. But this simulation idea is simply based off of weighted averages that the user kind of puts in, and then we prompt essentially the market to be able to tell them where they're wrong. So we take some of these senior analysts that have 35 years of world of experience, and so they have these blocks in their mind as to where they're supposed to go based on the 35 years worth of experience. However, what we're seeing is if we can just say, this is why we thought that this assumption is wrong because of X, Y, and Z's data point with sourcing and everything, that is where we start to see that wow moment in the customer's eyes of saying, well, I get it. So that's really where AI, I think, is really impactful on the underwriting, acquisition, site development, site selection side.
Love it. I'd be remiss if I mentioned NodaStar earlier. TractIQ has been our data partner here on the show since we first got started. I want to give them a little plug right now. You talked about plugging in data from these various sites. TractIQ, of course, in January announced their partnership with CredIQ. You can now get access to achieved rates and real occupancy data on over 4,000 different locations nationwide, all of the self-storage facilities that have CMBS loans. So shout out to Noah and his team. You can go to tractiq.com and you will, if you put /TSSR in there, you'll get a nice little bonus for having seen them on the show. So shout out to Noah and his team. I'm going to circle back to Jacob for a second, and I'm going to go around the room with this one. Something we talked about, I can't even remember when we talked about it, is if it was when we did the when we did our podcast episode. We had another conversation a few weeks ago, but you talked about something that the phrase still sticks with me. Use AI for what AI is good at. Use people for what people are good at, right?
Yeah.
What is AI really good at right now that people should be using it for in this space?
Yeah. We've been saying, people do people work, machines do machine work, and the machine work is sort of growing in capability over what it was, 2 years ago. But there's still obviously things that people are Mapform really, really good at. Like I think to Maggie's point earlier, I don't think there's those kind of complex human relationship things that you don't want to talk to an AI about, whether that's like maybe a missed payment and there's a complicated situation there. There's a bunch of stuff in kind of the sales tech world where there's like outbound automation of, sales reps kind of calling people, these AI BDRs, their business development representatives. I don't think those are going to work because people don't want to have a sales conversation with an AI really. So the things that I think, people, and obviously in our industry, there's like the actual, I was kind of joking earlier, 2030 robotics, whatever for storage, like there are very complicated on the ground jobs that like people go in and work hard every single day to like keep a facility running, right? Like that is very clearly people work. You're on site, you're repairing things on site, you're making sure things are clean, they're ready to rent, all of that kind of stuff. So how can we, for example, what we do at NodaFi is like, how can we put as much time into focusing on the facility cleanliness or the maintenance of your facility? Or another example is working with the Storage Pro team. Their district managers, they're using us to do all of their site audits now. And they said their old process, which involved paper and, moving it through a series of other kind of steps to upload it into a system, it took them about 4 to 5 hours to do that. But now they're spending 2 hours with NodaFi, having that kind of all automated, and they're using that extra time to coach their store managers so that they can be better at handling customer relationships, sales, whatever they're good at. There can be AI elements to it. There can be other technology related efficiency gains, but ultimately it's kind of, again, going back to what Maggie was saying about redirecting the efforts of your best people to be spent not on the machine work, whether that's copying data from one place to another, or in the AI world, maybe that's actually like analyzing that data and providing a report. Whatever that is, our goal is to give the time back for people to do the people work, the relationship stuff, the coaching stuff, the sales stuff, the customer experience stuff, or the physical maintenance of the property.
Appreciate that. I'd be remiss. Out of Tyler, I knew he had a meeting in about 7 minutes he had to go to, but he fell off. I don't know exactly what happened. He is in Valencia, Spain, so who knows if it was a technical issue or whatever, but want to just thank him so much for the contribution. Hopefully he pops back in, but no worries if he doesn't.
He got taken over by the fireworks.
It's some type of season of partying in Valencia, which is a beautiful thing. Maggie, I want to come to you. As Jacob mentioned, you alluded earlier about kind of funneling to the highest performers in a business. So I guess one of the questions, and I'm interested, everyone's, is AI going to take over? Am I going to lose my job for AI? I look at it the other way, I guess, as a business owner. Is AI really going to incentivize people to be high performers?
I would say so. I also think it's how do we shift the perspective of it, of how can we use AI to be better? How can I use it in my day-to-day? I come by it honestly, not a spreadsheet gal. I can do it. I do it. But if I can plug something into Claude Cowork or any other system and say, okay, create this for me, build out this calculator or whatever it is, it's how can we use it to benefit us in our jobs? And that can be applied to, if I'm a call center agent, I'm like, okay, how do I say this with more tact, or, and have how do we get the wording? How do we alter the scripts? I think, how are we stop being scared of this and embrace it and make it our advantage, right? That's really the goal.
Jacob, Pandl, I'll come to you for a follow-up question, which is AI going to take your job, or is you refusing to implement AI and property technology in the instance of our asset class to start utilizing some of these tools yourself going to be what ultimately gets you in trouble?
I'm optimistic, and I think it's number two there. It is, everything is rapidly changing, and it is, I'm always surprised to see honestly the newest thing kind of coming out. I'm here in San Francisco, and just over the last couple of years, my background is software engineering. I wouldn't have expected to see the level of kind of automation in the software engineering space in 2026 that we're seeing right now. So I don't think it's I think there are plenty of things we should be thinking about and reflecting on the societal impact of those things. And I wouldn't dismiss this as some just some blip that is whatever, don't worry about it, everyone's going to be fine. There are real things to think about. But to your point, Thaddeus, you don't ever get anywhere by sticking your head in the sand and just assuming everything's gonna the world is gonna keep changing. And so how can you position yourself in a way that is beneficial to you in this new world, in this changing world? And you have to embrace the technology and understand it, and see there's really positive ways that it can impact your life, your job, and you're best off doing what I said earlier is what I see as a positive trend in the industry, is all this experimentation with technology, and people incorporating it. I think that's the best path for the best outcome for yourself. So
I'm going to say I'm thankful that AI doesn't seem to be anywhere near filling the role of the podcast host yet.
a good one.
I will say it does a fantastic job of giving me some background information to ask better questions and prepare better, and utilizing it daily on that front. Guys, I want to honor your time. I told you before, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and join us. I'm going to give you both a chance. Next week is SSA. Maggie Bode, somebody wants to connect with you and talk about Unity AI for their business. What's the best way to get a hold of you? Are you going to be at SSA? I guess I'll say first. And how does someone get a hold of you if they want? I know you're going to be at SSA because you're the head at YLG, so I know that for sure.
Well,
how does someone get a hold of you and set up some time?
You can't hide from me at SSA. I will be there. Unfortunately,
that's why I'm not going. I'm sad. I'm so sad. I'm not going to SSA. I don't have to hide from you, but it's too bad.
Unity AI will be there. We have a team that's going. We'll be at booth 525. We also, now that you've given me the opportunity, we have YLG is the Young Leaders Group. We have 2 events on Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. We have a networking session, which is actually going to be quite interactive and fun. And then from 9 to midnight, we have an after hours event right down the street at Howl at the Moon. 40 and below, if you have a great skincare routine and you look 40 and below, come on. We're not going to turn you away.
My beard gives me away, unfortunately. Even if I was able to go, I would have gotten kicked at the door, but that's all right.
We can't be ageist. We're not checking IDs unless you look like you're under 21.
It.
So, excited for next week.
You know I love what you guys are doing on YLG. Jacob, are you a member of the YLG yet?
We've sponsored some of the YLG events.
They're sponsoring this one. This next one, I think,
I want
right?
you to get involved with it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So awesome organization, and we have a bunch of folks going to SSA next week, and we'll have to check out that invite Maggie just mentioned there. We're also doing a pub crawl. I see my email right there. Feel free to hit me up if you want in on. We're doing a little pub crawl along the river. Jesse Lamb from our team is going to be kind of running that. Should be a good time, but we'll be there, about 4 other people. So excited to see you there, Maggie, and anyone else who might be attending.
We will miss you, Thaddeus.
One of my favorite. I'm going to miss Jesse Lamb. Tell Span and Bobby that I'm going to be sad that we don't get to do 7 a.m. yoga like we did out in Colorado at the Executive Ski Workshop. The 2 guys from NodaFi were troopers on getting the 7 a.m. yoga, which is awesome. Final question. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask something a little bit fun to end it. Jacob, I'm going to start with you. Better season in 2026, Green Bay Packers or University of Wisconsin Badgers?
Oh, that's easy. Definitely the Green Bay Packers. The Badgers are struggling a little bit here. I think they got to figure out this new era of college football, which I'm optimistic that they'll do. But Packers had a classic season of like Super Bowl ambitions and then heartbreak, but we're used to that. So I'll give it another run in 2026.
Packers fans are nothing if not absolutely diehard. So we appreciate that about folks in Wisconsin, which is fantastic. Maggie Bode, this is for me. I'm an hour and a half from New York City. You're back in New York City, I think, for the second time in your life. I knew you went to East Carolina University last time. We talked a little bit about the Pirates when we had a conversation earlier. I did not know that you were a dance major. So I'm going to ask this question. I go into New York City with my wife, Broadway, musical, Metropolitan Opera. What do I choose?
I'm going to tell you to go to Broadway, and you should go see Chicago because it's very dance forward. That's always been my favorite. But you can't really go wrong. There's also a very good play that's been running. It's called Oh Mary. It's hysterical. But yeah, go support the arts.
Love it. I'm going to get to New York City. My wife and I have been to see Chicago previously, so I'm going to have to go see Oh Mary. Guys, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate the time and the insight. We could have talked about so much more. We'll try and do another one of these later in the year and have you guys come circle back and see, as Jacob and Maggie both alluded to, the speed and the pace of innovation in this space is incredible. We're going to make sure on Storage Unlocked that we help you keep on top of it. That's it for this week's edition. I'm your host, Thaddeus Campbell, S3 Partners. Very big thanks to our title sponsor, PB Brown General Contractors. Could not do this without them. We'll see everybody next week. Have a fantastic time at SSA.
Thanks, Thaddeus.
Thanks, guys.
See you there, Maggie. Bye.